As you play through Fallout New Vegas, you level up and become more powerful. You increase your special stats, you put points into various skills, you get perks, all sorts of great things happen. But what if none of that happened? Can you beat Fallout New Vegas at level 1? To get things started, we need to explain how this works. You can't not level up in New Vegas. Experience points are given to you for completing quests, killing people, discovering locations, etc. They can't be avoided. However, we can use console commands to set ourselves back to level 1 every time we level up. But that's not enough, not even close. So we're going to set every special stat to 1, every skill to 0, and remove almost every perk we get. Now that we know what's going on, we can get started with the game. Because we're stripping ourselves of special and skills, what we choose is irrelevant. Remember 34 words ago when I said almost every perk? This is where that comes in. I'm taking the skilled perk, which adds 5 points to every skill while decreasing experience earned by 10%. I waited until after I got the Pip-Boy to lower everything just so I could make sure they were actually decreasing. Out into the world, and my first stop was the general store to buy as much ammo as chat offered. With my gun's skill at 0, I'll need as many bullets as I can carry to protect myself out in the wasteland. Then I spoke to Sunny Smiles to add a varmint rifle to my collection of weapons and killed everyone in the Prospector Saloon, as well as Easy Pete. Once they were dead, I began heading east so that I could start my journey towards the Strip. Something I neglected to mention was that some armors provide stat boosts. So I just decided to not wear any armor at all. This, more so than my lackluster skills, proved to be the real challenge. Even on easy, the powder gangers south of Sloan were an actual threat. A few shots are all it takes to drain my hit points. I discovered Sloan, I lured a Deathclaw into the area, hoping that they'd all kill each other, discovered Neil's shack, and killed an NCR trooper so I could camouflage my way into Camp McCarran and get into the Strip. Then I remembered that I outlawed armor, so I just speared the guards and took my naked ass onto the monorail to finally arrive at the Strip. Luckily, I have the Ultimate Edition of New Vegas, which grants me a few extra weapons from the various DLCs included. I used the grenade launcher to put my life on the line as I blasted grenades at the chairmen in the Tops Casino. I killed them, killed Benny, leveled up, then de-leveled myself, talked to Yes Man, got my payment from Mr. House, watched his presentation, killed him after barely making it into his chambers, and began meeting the nearby tribes. The Legion were up first. As I ventured out to Cottonwood Cove, I ran across a blind Deathclaw. I assumed that because he was blind, I could run right past him. As he rained blows upon me, slicing me open from all directions, I discovered just how wrong I was. I could have taken a different path, I could have avoided him altogether, but that's too easy. I eventually blew his head off with a shotgun. Then, once I started entering the canyon area near Cottonwood Cove, I remembered that there was no need to interact with the Legion at all. I discovered the location anyway, then went back to Sloan so I could wander into Hidden Valley. I decided that getting into a fight with several power-armored paladins with energy weapons without wearing any armor was probably the best option for this particular situation. I pulled out my grenade launcher and laid waste to all of them. I fast-traveled back to Camp McCarran so that I could head out to Red Rock Canyon. I killed a worthless nobody and proceeded to make my way towards Nellis. I wasted a lot of ammo trying to kill George, but as my bullet entered his body and he fell over dead, I realized it was 100% worth it. I met the Boomers, didn't kill them or anything, and returned to the Strip to deal with the casinos. I killed the White Gloves greeter, almost got my head caved in by a cane because you can't exit a building while reloading, and with everything at 0, you reload incredibly slowly. Gamora was next, and I killed an Omerta thug and left. With Yes Man now in position, I was ready to take the next step. Or so I thought. Turns out that killing Mortimer doesn't count as meeting the White Glove Society. So I entered the building, took some clothes off a corpse, spoke to Butters, and finally completed the Wild Card Side Bets quest. I restored power to the Strip and took another step towards the point of no return. The thing about the second battle of Hoover Dam is that everyone has high-powered weapons. Sniper rifles, super sledges, trail carbines, hunting rifles, etc. And against my frail little man-baby body, they are quite effective. So effective, in fact, that pretty much any damage from an enemy will cripple whatever limb they happen to hit. Not great. I found that a super sledge was equally effective against all enemies. The Securitrons who were supposedly by my side also turned out to be a bunch of idiots. All 2 of them by my side died against 4 or 5 Centurions, who also killed me. The next time around, I helped them fight instead of sitting back behind a corner like a little bitch. But when the fighting stopped, they didn't cease fire. They kept firing at the nothing and even damaged me in the process. All that's left is the Legate and his companions. I knew that I needed a weapon that did as much damage as possible to compensate for my non-existent skills. The super sledge is good, but up close, the Legate will cut me in half before you can even say banana. So the anti-material rifle was my choice here. Luckily, I had a single dose of steady on me, which was so incredibly useful. It took several attempts, but I was able to defeat the Legate and slay all other Legion in the Legate's camp. Lastly, there's General Oliver. The General was ready for a fight. I, however, was not. So I ran away and let the Securitrons do their thing. And with that, I've beaten Fallout New Vegas at level 1 without skills or perks. There are so many great weapons in Fallout New Vegas, it's almost impossible to pick a bad one. And even if you do somehow manage to find yourself with a subpar weapon, skills and chems can carry the load for you, most of the time. There's one weapon that nothing can save, a weapon with absolutely no redeeming qualities. Can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only a rolling pin? Our special stats this time around aren't anything crazy. It's the same setup you'd use in a normal melee-only build. But because I don't want to be reliant on speech, I dropped the points out of Charisma and put them into Agility. Strength is at 10, obviously. Perception deals with energy weapons, lockpick, and explosives, so it's not that useful. Intelligence at 9 lets us level up faster, and Endurance at 9 ensures that we aren't a wet noodle once we get out into the Mojave. For skills, we go with melee weapons, survival, and lockpick. And for traits, we have Skilled to boost all skills, and Wild Wasteland because why not? After looting Doc Mitchell's house, my first stop was the general store to sell Doc Mitchell's stuff and pick up a few stim packs. I also sold all the weapons that came from the DLC packs. And here's the first challenge. This is a rolling pin only playthrough, which means using fists is out of the question. So, I have to find a rolling pin. Sounds easy, right? Well, sort of. They have a chance of spawning inside metal boxes, but there aren't many boxes in Good Springs. You can use the Fallout Wiki to see exactly where rolling pins are located, which is what I used. The first stop is Prim to get a quest started. A rolling pin is important, but more important at the moment is getting my melee weapon skill up as quickly as I can. When Johnson Nash didn't have a rolling pin, I ransacked his house, but still didn't find one. I knew where one was, it was just a real pain to get there. Novak. Lovely. On the way out there, I discovered Hidden Valley and passed through Scorpionville. This was not the best idea I've ever had. It took a good while, but I finally got my rolling pin. I stole it from Cliff Briscoe's bungalow. I finally had my weapon, and man, do I look fucking cool now. Now that I can defend myself, it was time to bash in some skulls. I started with the convicts in Prim who were mean to me earlier. Then I ventured south towards Mojave Outpost. The Jackal gang members out that way, specifically their leader, proved to be the first of many challenging foes who would ultimately fall before my mighty rolling pin. After arriving at Mojave Outpost, I took a job from Ranger Jackson, who wanted me to kill some ants. I killed the ants and made a big decision. Thus far, this run doesn't seem to be challenging enough, so I upped the difficulty to normal from very easy. This isn't supposed to be a cakewalk. Not long after making things harder for myself, I discovered something that almost negated that. Almost. One of my concerns was weapon degradation. Turns out that Major Knight is a pretty handy fella, and he's also cheap. He can repair my darling rolling pin up to 100% for just a handful of caps. With my weapon essentially being immortal, I thought it a good time to rescue Deputy Beagle from the escaped convicts. The leader was tough to kill, but he finally went down after I bonked him on the back of the head really hard. Prim needs leadership, and considering what's coming, it felt right to have the NCR take over the town. Johnson Nash seems like the kind of guy who would enjoy paying taxes. With the town safe, I was off to check on Mitten for Ranger Ghost. Along the way, I fought more ants. A lot of ants. Also more Jackal gang members. The normal difficulty was definitely not very easy. The trick with the rolling pin is to hit people with it over and over again. If you hit them hard enough, you'll cripple their brain case, which will stagger them a bit, allowing you to hit them even more. In Mitten, I immediately went after that cunt Oliver Swanwick. He is a runner, but no matter how far you run, no matter how safe you think you are, you're never safe from Ethel and his rolling pin. I named myself Ethel just in case you couldn't put those pieces of the puzzle together. I met Wolf Boy, tried to kill him, only succeeded in killing a dog and then dying, beat the ever-living fuck out of a powdered granite's legs, went back to Mojave Outpost to tell Ghost what happened, spread word of the Legion's atrocities, sold my wares to Cliff Briscoe, did some sweet parkour, and was off to Boulder City. I stopped by 188 Trading Post, got Veronica as a companion, fast-traveled back to Hidden Valley, and used Veronica to get me inside the Brotherhood bunker. Then I sent her packing, got a mission from the Elder, killed a few centaurs, found a holotape, and entered RepCon headquarters. Putting all my skill points into melee weapons came back and bit me in the ass here. In order to get to the second floor of RepCon, you need a lockpicking skill of 50. I don't have that, which means the only way for me to get up there is to kill the Mr. Handy with the key. But the other robots really don't like that. The sentry bots found it especially upsetting, and they are as tough as they are persistent. Once I figured out how doors work, I was able to get upstairs to recover the holotape and somehow made it out alive. The last one would have to wait. I've got a boulder to see. Jessup was surprised as hell to see me, and Jessup is one tough cookie. I shit you not, I was beating him with my rolling pin for more than 2 minutes. I started to fight the other guy, but decided it wasn't worth the effort and left, signaling to the NCR soldiers that they could advance and open fire. I got my rolling pin repaired again and was headed for the strip. And for once, I didn't get sidetracked with some other nonsense and actually made it there. Some things never changed though, because I kicked the top's doors open and started swinging away at the chairman. And for some reason, when I started giving Benny the old 1-bop 2-bop with the rolling pin, he just stood there and took it, didn't even attempt to fight back. With the platinum chip back in my possession, I completed my delivery to Mr. House, got my payment, and went to talk to Ambassador Dennis Crocker. That's right, I'm not siding with Yes Man this time. If any playthrough calls for it, it's this one. Since I'm siding with the NCR, there's lots to do. First up is to convince the boomers to come to the aid of the NCR at the Second Battle of Hoover Dam. This means I can't meet Pearl and then kill her. I have to help them. When melee weapons reached 100, I started putting the excess points into medicine, making it trivial to help the boomers' doctor with their patients. I also talked to Pete, then Loyal, then Raquel, and I got to kill more ants. I really didn't feel like helping Jack or repairing the satellite array. Luckily, you can boost the boomer's affinity for you by giving Raquel missiles. So I went to the gunrunners, bought 30 missiles, and gave them to Raquel. I raised the plane for Loyal, got word from Pearl that they'll help me in the upcoming war, and was done with the boomers forever. Next up is Pacer. This one's tricky. I couldn't just kill him outright. Crocker wouldn't like that. Option A is to spike his jet with Psycho and kill him that way. I tried to find his stash, failed, and read online that it's a whole ordeal to get to do it that way. So I tricked someone else into killing him for me. I got the guard job from Gloria Van Graff and took my place next to Simon. I antagonized Pacer and got him to open fire. I thought Simon would help me. He did not. I was almost out of ideas. I also thought that my rolling pin was in the crate next to Simon, but that too was not. Then things got tricky again. See, I had my rolling pin and could beat Pacer with it, but if you stray too far, Simon thinks you ran off with the Van Graff shit, and he'll open fire, failing the quest. It took a bit of trial and error, but I was able to kill Pacer and have it pinned on the Van Graffs. I've been summoned to Hoover Dam to meet with Colonel Moore. She gave me a new mission: deal with the Great Khans. Maybe, if you've got a high speech skill, you can convince them to not hate the NCR. I do not, which means it's time to finish the NCR's job and finally end the Great Khans. To do this, I'll need to kill 15 of them. The good news is that they aren't as tough as Jessup. The bad news is that they're still a real bitch to kill. By the time the Great Khans were no more, my poor rolling pin was almost broken in half. Next, I was told to see if anything fishy was going on at Gamora. Seemed like busy work. Instead, I got the last Brotherhood holotape and found the dead paladin just outside of Nellis. Elder McNamara has a strange affinity for threes. 3 dead paladins to track down, 3 scouts to meet, 3 A's in his last name. It's suspicious as all hell. I got the scout reports, and guess what? More 3s! I had to go to 3 different vaults to track down the parts needed to keep the bunker's lights on. First up was Vault 3. This went about as badly as something could go. I set the difficulty back down to very easy because I'm a pussy and charged inside. These fiends were not nice to me. After trying for a few minutes to kill them and going through all my stim packs, I found out that I couldn't get into the maintenance room without a key. Rather than fighting, I ran past all the fiends in an attempt to get the key. My plan worked to perfection. The NCR Ranger hiding in the vault had traps. I set off those traps and used them to kill most of the fiends that were following me. The Ranger died, and I picked the key from his still warm body. I avoided Motor Runner and his dogs, got the part I needed, and was off to the next vault. All that was inside this next one were giant mantises and rats. Easy peasy. The last vault was sort of an inverse of Vault 3. Inside was nothing frightening. To get to it though, that was scary. Cazadors are always a pain to fight, and when your only weapon is a rolling pin, fighting isn't an option. I channeled my inner Skyrim horse and walked the walls. It took longer than I thought it should have, but I got inside the vault, got the part, returned to the Brotherhood bunker, and thanked them not as an outsider, but as a friend. Lowercase on that F, not uppercase, let's not get carried away. I'd put it off long enough. The time had come to see what the flipper was going on inside Gamora. I really didn't want to go through all that nonsense, so I started beating people with my rolling pin. Then I tried to lie to Colonel Moore about it. Turns out, it doesn't matter whether you lie or not. Yay, no morals! By this point, Mr. House has usually long since been dead. I corrected that mistake and finally figured out what happens to Victor when Mr. House dies. Then I killed Victor for the last time. No resurrections this time. Then I convinced the Brotherhood to form a momentary truce with the NCR, prepared for President Kimball's arrival, stopped a would-be evildoer, stopped an assassination attempt, saved the day, and took the final steps towards the point of no return. General Oliver told me the plan. All that changed when the Legion attacked. I could have fought tooth and nail alongside the NCR to defend the dam, but that would have been hard, so I just ran past all the Centurions with their big guns and fancy hats. They followed me inside the Legate's camp, and I discovered how truly fucked I was when I hit a Praetorian. My rolling pin did fuck all against him. Things were not looking good for me. And then, a miracle happened. Something nobody could have predicted. Here's what happened. Legate Lanius doesn't become hostile towards you unless you attack him or you speak to him. But before either of those things could happen, 2 NCR soldiers arrived on the scene and attacked the Legate. There were also Praetorians attacking me. It was a giant clusterfuck. Through some sort of AI error in the game, the Legate started attacking the Praetorians, and was eventually felled by them. I did not kill the Legate, but I took all the credit. Oliver couldn't arrive until the Praetorians were killed, and that sucked. Oh my god, did that suck. My poor rolling pin was closer than ever to snapping in half. Despite that, the NCR won the day, and I beat Fallout New Vegas with only a rolling pin. Companions are one of the best parts of the Fallout games. They accompany you on your adventures, are sworn to carry your burdens, and can be the only thing standing between you and a bullet, whether they want to be or not. But what if you wanted to essentially make a companion do all the work? Can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only a companion? Up first, as always, is the character name. My initial thought, for whatever reason, was to name myself Mr. Least, but that's dangerously close to copyright infringement, so I named myself Mr. Yeast instead. Then I created my princess and used the Vigor Tester. The main stat tied to companions is Charisma. It affects their nerve, which gives a 5% boost to damage output and damage threshold for each point in Charisma. The rest of the points went into luck, intelligence, and agility. The skills I chose were Medicine, Repair, and Sneak, and the traits I chose were Wild Wasteland and Trigger Discipline, because nothing matters and existence is pain. Oh, and because some people have asked, here's my mod list and the load order for this playthrough. NMC's texture pack is installed, but it doesn't show up in the plugins list. With the formalities out of the way, you may be wondering what the hell I mean when I say with only a companion. Well, it's similar to my BB gun only playthrough in Fallout 3, or my fork playthrough in Skyrim. But instead of only being able to attack with one weapon, only a companion can attack. I myself cannot attack or deal damage to any living creature for any reason whatsoever. After raiding Doc Mitchell's house, I went out into the wasteland to begin my adventure. The first thing I did was get the varmint rifle from Sunny Smiles so that Joe Cobb could show up and unfortunately not kill Trudy on sight. I convinced Sunny, Trudy, Chet, Doc Mitchell, Easy Pete, and the rest of the town to go to war. then sat back and watched the battle begin. It didn't matter to me who won. I was actually hoping they'd all slaughter each other, leaving only Easy Pete and Cheyenne alive. But the citizens of Townsville prevailed over the wannabe rowdy rough boys. I got paid for fighting on the front lines, found Cheyenne's corpse, tried to take it with me, but she's fucking heavy, so I took her skin and was on my way to the strip. As I took my leave, I got the opportunity to change my name, and I did, to something much more appropriate, like Pinhead. I got chased out of Good Springs by a rad scorpion, passed through Hidden Valley, parkoured over a few bark scorpions, and arrived at Black Mountain to rescue my main squeeze, Raoul. Squeezing him is probably a bad idea though. I have a feeling it'd be like squeezing a big pussy scab. As fucked up as I am, the idea of being covered in several 100-year-old pus does nothing to get my trousers moving. I stuck to the cliffs of Black Mountain to avoid most of the super mutants and Nightkin, but there was a locked gate and I couldn't jump the fence, so I had to go through the main entrance, which was guarded by 2 invisible Nightkin, and it was also in the slime zone for the super mutant with a missile launcher. It's worth mentioning that earlier in this playthrough, I had decided that I would only wear my Vault 21 jumpsuit and a stupid hat. Believe it or not, with my endurance at 1 and practically no armor, I got fucked hard by Annabelle. After a few attempts, I made it inside and rescued my darling Raoul. I gave him some armor and one of my stupid hats, then decided that me not wearing any real armor was a stupid idea, so I armored up, gave all my weapons and ammo to Raoul, and he's already unconscious. The upside here is that this unfortunate circumstance allowed me to discover a new cheesing technique. If your companion is unconscious and you enter a building, they regain consciousness. I used this bullshit technique to enter and exit the prison building multiple times. Raoul and I would leave, he'd get a few shots off, get fucked by the missile launcher, and I'd return inside to bring him back to life. After nearly wearing out the door hinges, the super mutants and Nightkin in the immediate area were defeated. I distracted the big ugly one with a missile launcher while Raoul killed it. We entered Tabitha's hideout, Raoul killed her, I looted a few boxes, and was off to Boulder City. As I mindlessly wandered towards Boulder City, I ran into a Deathclaw. Raoul saved my life, I performed an ancient Michigan mating ritual, and I knew he was the right companion. Not even a minute later, I got annihilated by another Deathclaw, and regretted every decision in my life that led me to this exact moment. I reloaded a save, put down the Chucky Finster voodoo doll, took to the cliffs again, survived an encounter with the Powder Gibraltars, because they weren't hostile for some reason, and entered RepCon headquarters. I was hoping to get the Brotherhood of Steel holotape, so I wouldn't have to do it later. But without a weapon, the only way to get the Mr. Handies to attack is to ignore their warnings to leave. Raoul mopped the floor with them all, including the sentry bots, and the maintenance robot that had the key started having some kind of episode. Watching his brothers die probably traumatized him. Not only was he having some sort of seizure, but Raoul seemed sympathetic to the fucker and wouldn't attack him. With no way to get the holotag, I left, passed through 188 Trading Post, got ambushed by that cum-stained Malcolm Holmes, set a new map marker for Boulder City, turned a corner, and arrived at Boulder City. It was a good thing I had that last map marker. Not sure I would have made it to Boulder City without it. In Boulder City, I took the diplomatic approach to dealing with the Great Khans by having Raoul kill them all. With the day saved, Raoul and I began making our way towards the strip, and then Raoul murdered a whole family of bighorners for no reason at all. I enjoyed watching it, so it didn't bother me at all, but robbing an innocent animal of its life is wrong, unless it's threatening you, or if you're gonna eat it, or if it gave you a weird look, if it's in your way, or if killing it would be fun, or if it made the poor decision of being alive instead of being dead. Calm down, vegetarians, I'm talking about animals in video games. Animals in real life matter much less. On my way to the strip, I found an assortment of dead bodies that had some nice combat armor. Mrs. Hostetler was very rude to me after I broke into her house, so I had Raoul kill her. Closer to the strip, I sold a bunch of stuff to the gunrunners and decided that this would be a very murder-heavy playthrough. When I picked the lock to the gunrunner's gate, Raoul opened fire on my behalf and killed the guards. Then we went inside and killed all the workers. He killed all the workers. Inside Freeside, I bought some naughty nightwear from Mick, ventured inside the King's headquarters, and initiated combat by stealing one of their mugs to replace the one I lost, leading to Raoul killing them all, including Rex and the King. Thou shalt not consider any companions besides Raoul. With the Kings gone forever, I wanted to do the same thing to the Van Graffs. In order to get inside, you must relinquish your weapons. Even after stealing a few weapons off their shelves and giving them to Raoul, the fight did not go in our favor at all. So I charmed Gloria Van Graff with my beautiful face and got the job as their guard. Then I took about a dozen steps in the wrong direction and all hell broke loose. First, Raoul killed Simon, then everyone inside the building. The real problem was deciding which of their weapons I should steal and sell because I could not carry them all. But a mother's work is never done. So we went to the Atomic Wrangler because, as Gerald from Hey Arnold used to say, there's nothing like a drink and a fuck after killing. Not only was Fisto nowhere to be found, but James Garrett was exceptionally rude to me. You know what that means? They did. By this point, I was carrying far too much stuff. I thought it a good idea to return to Mick and Ralph to sell what I could. Mick and Ralph are not fans of fun, it would seem, because they refused to sell to me. As a sign of me working towards forgiveness in the eyes of the Lord, I had Raoul kill them both. A thug then violated the sanctity of the law by breaking into Mick and Ralph's store and threatening me. He'd have been killed if I was faster than a turtle walking through a field of peanut butter. After about an hour of non-stop death, I went back to the gunrunners to sell a good chunk of the weapons I'd found and bought most of the ammo that I thought would be useful. Then it was off to the strip, for realsies this time, and right before I opened the gate, Old Ben told me that I looked new to Freeside. I should have killed the bitch for that. And I did. I've described a lot of massacres in the last 6 paragraphs, and there are a few more terrorist attack level onslaughts to take part in, so I'll be brief. My first stop on the strip was Gomorrah to have Raoul kill all the Omertas. I couldn't tell you how many people died, I lost track after the 3rd body hit the floor. Then we did the same thing in the Ultra Lux. The overwhelming majority of the White Gloves were deceased by the time I left, including Butters, who only died after she got a face full of crotch. Before advancing to the tops, I decided that I would not be siding with the NCR in this run, and to make sure of that, I had Raoul share his lead with the military police at the NCR embassy on the strip. At the tops, the chairmen tried their best not to die, but it didn't work. Didn't work for Benny either. With the platinum chip in hand, I completely ignored Yes Man, finally put Victor to rest, entered the Lucky 38, and dealt with Mr. House. I know what you're thinking. You can't kill him. Well, you're wrong. I can. I did not attack him. I merely left him out in the open so the earth germs would get him. I didn't kill him. Unsanitary living conditions did. My options are now pretty limited, so I figured I might as well side with Caesar. I spent a lot more time than I should have swimming in the river towards Cottonwood Cove, took a ride to the fort, let Caesar cover me in his thick, warm praise, went down to Mr. House's sex chamber, and destroyed the generators. Contrary to what modern-day Scientologists will tell you, electrical generators are not alive and feel no pain. Destroying them was not attacking any enemy. Once I informed Caesar of my success, I was given a new mission: deal with the boomers. I had Raoul kill George. I rather easily dodged the boomers' artillery strikes, let Pearl die, let the rest of the boomers die, and upgraded Raoul's armor to a set of Air Force power armor. With the boomers gone forever, except for the stupid fucking children, the Brotherhood of Steel were next on the list. They were the first real challenge in this run. Raoul, even with power armor and the best weapons I could afford or steal off corpses, was not much of a match for several paladins with Gauss rifles and advanced energy weapons. I had to go back to my cheese technique from earlier, but even that wasn't as effective as it was previously. I had luckily stockpiled about 25 stim packs, so I was able to use them, along with my cheese, to keep Raoul alive long enough for him to kill the paladins. Advancing further into the bunker, there were several more paladins to deal with, which were just as much of a pain in my ass as the others were. But once they were dead, the remaining scribes and other products of incest didn't put up too much of a fight. I had given Raoul a Gauss rifle, but it turns out that he sucks with it. When the Elder, Head Scribe, and Head Paladin were finally dead, I set off the self-destruct sequence, left, and returned to Caesar, who is suffering from being a little bitch. Can't just use Tylenol or something, he needs surgery, according to me. Wait, what the fuck does that even mean? Moving on, I got the surgical supplies from a doctor, performed the surgery, and was ready to show my unwavering loyalty to Caesar by killing President Kimball. I failed that mission, royally. Mr. Milan was not thrilled with my mistake, but the past is the past, and it's time to go to war with the NCR once and for real. The legate informed Raoul and I of the plan: get inside the dam and deal with General Oliver. The initial assault on the dam went about as well as it could. I guess Raoul had enough of my shit because he ran off to God knows where. I found him standing on the beach, looking out at the river. Worthless cunt. He'd do what I say, whether he wants to or not. I pushed onward, advancing towards the Hoover Dam offices by myself. Once I got inside, Raoul was by my side again. I ignored the NCR troopers and got to Lee Oliver's compound. Things have gone pretty well so far, all things considered, but, as usual, things are about to get fucked up in a way nobody could have predicted. Raoul fought valiantly and killed the rangers guarding the Olive, but for some reason he went down to the main floor and knocked out Raoul. The thing to know about unconsciousness is that your companion won't wake up until the aggroed enemies in the area are dealt with. But that is irrelevant at the moment, because when I confronted Oliver, he was happy I arrived and told me to take care of the legate. This was the first in a comedy of errors. I couldn't leave the compound, so obviously killing the legate wasn't an option. In this circumstance, the only way to aggro an NPC is to pickpocket them and get caught. That doesn't work on Oliver, it just engages dialogue. Then he gets word that the legate's forces are attacking the dam. During that conversation, you don't have control. But this isn't the way things normally happen, so Oliver disappears before he can tell you what to do, leaving you stuck in place. This is effectively a soft lock. I spent 30 minutes in this fucking nightmare, so I'll quickly go through what happened. After some trial and error, I got Raoul to fight Oliver on the main floor, but that's not supposed to happen, so Oliver can't die. Another soft lock. Then I got past all the rangers and traps on the second floor and confronted Oliver where you're supposed to. He died, but I lacked the supplies that would allow Raoul to kill the remaining heavy troopers. I'm not sure exactly what it was that caused it, but I broke the game. When it comes to stupid bullshit though, I am not easily perturbed. For fuck's sake, I replayed Fallout 3 as a baby without taking any damage because I couldn't use any buttons as a child. This is nothing. Anyway, there is a failsafe, a key I can turn to make this all go away, and I turned that key. I went back to when Caesar gave me the order to go to the legate's camp to learn of his plan. I went back to the tops and found my ace in the hole. Yes, man. I did the usual song and dance for the ass kisser. I met the great Khans on Red Rock Canyon. The other factions had already been dealt with. I let Yes Man take over the void left by Mr. House. I installed the override module. I stormed the dam with Raoul and a Securitron. I avoided all the enemies on the surface by running straight for the offices to install Yes Man. I hit a button to render the dam worthless. Made the final push towards the legate's camp. Leveled up one final time and decided to go all in on speech to end this shit as quickly as possible. Fate had other plans though. My speech skill was at 99, so I must kill the legate. The silver lining is that I had enough points in speech to convince the legate to fight me one-on-one. Raoul did some damage, but was nearly killed by the legate, who ran off for some reason. Then, as the legate was fleeing, Raoul's poor old heart gave out from the stress. Luckily, the legate was far enough away that Raoul could regain consciousness and finally kill the legate. I took the legate's mighty blade, gave it to Raoul, Raoul killed General Oliver with it, and I beat Fallout New Vegas with only a companion. It's an objective fact that Fallout New Vegas is the best Fallout game to be released in 2010. While the story is thought by some to be better than Fallout 3 or 4's, there's more to the story of the Courier than what's in the vanilla game. Can you beat Fallout New Vegas's Dead Money DLC without taking any damage? This run is different than any challenge I've done so far for a very simple reason, and you probably already know what it is. This is downloadable content. It's meant to be played during or after you beat the main story, which means you're not expected to do it as soon as you leave Doc Mitchell's house. Because the challenge isn't to beat the DLC at level 1, I did something that may be controversial. I used console commands to level me up to level 20, which is the minimum level suggested for starting Dead Money. In an effort to keep things somewhat fair, rather than dumping all my points into skills that I'd usually rely on, like speech, sneak, or guns, I decided to get every skill up to 40. Then I put the 9 leftover points into my tag skills, the skills that I just said I'd normally rely on. You're probably wondering about perks. Well, I chose Confirmed Bachelor, Fortune Finder, Lady Killer, and Intense Training, with Educated being the last perk I chose so that I'd get its effects moving forward. Then, to try to balance things out, which in retrospect didn't matter, like, at all, I removed Confirmed Bachelor and Lady Killer via console commands. The entire point of this is to go into Dead Money with an as average character as possible. Into the game, I started out by making my way to the abandoned Brotherhood of Steel bunker to begin the DLC. I did get sexually assaulted by a group of cazadors on the way there, but the DLC hadn't started yet, so it doesn't matter. I went down the ladder, got attacked with gas, and woke up in front of a fountain with a collar around my neck and an old man giving me orders. My mission was simple: find and recruit 3 others to help Daddy Elijah get into the Sierra Madre casino. There are only a few problems. 1. The thick cloud of poisonous gas. 2. The collar around my neck that will explode if I take a step in the wrong direction. And 3. The ghost people who, just like almost every other monstrosity to grace the Mojave Wasteland and its nearby areas, are a result of the experiments done by brains in jars in a giant crater. I also have almost no armor, a laughably small amount of weapons to work with, and no healing items. Oh, and there's the whole any damage of any kind kills me because I set my max health to 1 thing. So, not the worst situation I found myself in. With the extra damage inflicted from stealth attacks, the hollow rifle can take out a ghost person with a single shot. After I found out I wasn't completely fucked, I picked up some Chuck E. Cheese tokens from a fountain, entered the Villa police station, and exploded for the first time. The beeping collar is significantly more annoying than the red cloud, but it's present throughout the entire run, so I'm not gonna be a little bitch and complain about it anymore. I continued searching the police station for a way to free the dog god, found a helmet which is irrelevant since I couldn't take any damage in the first place, picked up a police pistol that would allow me to save my hollow rifle for tougher foes, went down to the basement, looted more stuff, got the dog command tape, cautiously approached the holding cell, played the tape, and initiated dialogue with the beast. And let me tell you, that dog has a lot to say. After about 15 minutes of back and forth, I convinced God to come along with me on my stupid adventures in hopefully not dying, and was off to find Dean Domino. The trick to dealing with the ghost people is to, if possible, sit back and let a companion, like God Dog, deal with them. Sometimes he actually kills them. Sometimes he just knocks them out, which means you have to cut their limbs off or blow them to heck. Not difficult if you have a cosmic knife or something, but it's still something to keep in mind. Dean Domino is located in the residential district, beyond the red cloud. Luckily, filling your lungs with the thick, toxic red cloud is more like drowning than blasting your face with hot steam. You can survive for a bit inside the cloud before it does its damage. I killed quite a few more ghost people, collected more tokens, disarmed some traps, took a seat next to this freak, and the next thing I knew, I was sitting on a bomb. But I called Domino's and ordered a bluff, which worked, because in order to shower the moon with the blood from my ass, Domino would need a powerful explosive. If I die, he dies. After surprisingly less conversation than I got from God Dog, Dean agreed to wait at the fountain like a good ghoul while my dog and I went off to find Christine. More ghost folks were ended, my collar did some excited beeping, and I soon found myself inside the Villa clinic. Next stop, new adventures of horribly traumatized from days of medical torture, Christine. And just when you thought there couldn't be any more things to mildly inconvenience me, the game introduces us to holograms, imaginary people made of light who feel no pain and can't be stopped. Your only option is to avoid them. The cunt hair-sized silver lining is that when there are holograms, there are usually terminals to set their path. And if you're wondering, even God Dog is frightened by the light people. After a bit of wandering around aimlessly, I came dangerously close to being offed by the Cyclops wannabe, found a key to get into the basement, which allowed me to shut off power to the building, find Christine, and start playing the worst game of charades ever. Several rounds of charades later, I convinced Christine to meet God Dog, Dean Domino, and myself at the fountain in the center of town. Once the gang was back together, Elijah explained the plan. I need to get the mental patient, the mute, and the attractive guy into position in order to trigger the gala event, which will let us all join hands and walk into the casino together, or something to that effect. I chose to start with Dino because why not? He needs to get to a specific rooftop in Puesta del Sol South. By now, dealing with a few ghost people isn't too bad, as long as I'm dealing with them one-on-one. A group of them is a different story. Believe it or not, the hard part here wasn't the ghost people, or the cloud, or my lackadaisical attitude towards this whole thing. It was finding the exact rooftop Dean needed to be on. But after some rooftop parkour, I found the right roof and had to convince Dean to stay up there and use his body to complete the circuit. This can be done 2 ways. The first is to be a gentleman about it and activate 2 holograms to keep Dean safe. The alternative is to tell Dean that if he doesn't do his goddamn job, you'll shatter his legs and leave him up there. With Dean in place, I went back to the fountain, did more charade bullshit with Christine, and we were off to the Puesta del Sol switching station. There are a few spots with the red cloud, but overall, getting there was really easy. To get into the actual switching station, you need a repair skill of 60 or 3 electrical box fuses. The box fuses are marked on your map, so they're not difficult to find. With them in hand, Christine and I headed into the switching station. I found an automatic rifle, destroyed a turret with a spear, did more but less impressive parkour, and found an elevator. Once again, there are 2 ways to go about this. I chose to be a real prick by promising Christine that I wouldn't send her down into the basement, then I did it anyway. With the bitch in place, it all came down to God Dog. I had more conversation with God Dog at the fountain. He seemed to know what was going on. Dogs do have a good sense of hearing after all. And we were off. He did most of the killing on the way to his position. There are a series of switches that God Dog needs to flip. But he was my first friend in this shithole, so rather than forcing him to do something, I killed 2 ghost people, rooted around in their bodies until I found food, returned the food to God Dog, and was told by Elijah that it was finally time to trigger the gala event. The end goal here is to flip a switch in a tower in Salida del Sol. Getting there isn't the hard part. What am I saying? That's the hard part. The ghost people are there because they're everywhere, but there's also bear traps all over the place. A lot of the time they're in the cloud, so while you're focused on getting through the cloud, you get caught in a trap meant for Winnie the Pooh. Eventually, I made it to the courtyard, outmaneuvered a ghost man, got hit with a gas tank, barely avoided getting stuck by a spear, made it to the tower, and flipped a switch to trigger the gala event. The casino was pretty, in a ominous, probably gonna get trapped inside and die a slow death kind of way. With all the commotion from the celebratory fireworks and loud noises, the ghost people are back with a vengeance. I had 2 options here, again. I could fight my way through them, using most, if not all, of my ammo in the process. The other option is to strip naked and run past them as fast as I can, while also being on the lookout for bear traps. And that's exactly what I did. And it was about as bad as you probably expected. Not awful, but still annoying. After a few runs, I figured out where the enemies are, what bear traps I needed to disarm, and I made my way back to the fountain, entered the Sierra Madre Casino, and saw what Iron Man saw in Avengers: Age of Ultron. Now, again, I must do something with each of the 3 numbskulls I convinced, or threatened, same thing really, into helping me. God Dog was up first. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm an idiot. I spent a solid 30 minutes trying to figure out how to open the door to Cantina Madrid. I destroyed a few emitters for the holograms, I hacked terminals, I read the fucking wiki, but I must have had a stroke because I knew I was looking at words, but they didn't make any sense. Once I recovered from the stroke, I figured it out. There's a piece of paper on the bar that has a password. It was that simple. I found the key to Cantina Madrid, entered the restaurant, and I died. There's a gas leak in the restaurant, and, believe it or not, breathing in gas isn't good. In fact, it does damage. No, this is not good at all. You have about 4 seconds before you die from the gas. Obviously, that's not enough time to shut off 3 leaking valves. I really thought I met my match here. You cannot proceed without turning off those valves. But once again, speedrunners save the day. So shout out to Kung Cobra for effectively saving this run. There's another way to get into the restaurant's kitchen, through a door that you can't open without a key. How do you get through a door that you can't open? You cheat. Well, sort of. For the first time ever, I have to use the quick save, quick load technique to glitch myself through something in Fallout New Vegas. If you do it this way, the gas hasn't any effect. Why? No idea. Probably something to do with loading. I convinced Dog to sleep, allowing God to take control, which meant that he wasn't going to blow up the entire casino. I then leveled up, killed the few ghost people who'd found their way into the casino, and entered the Tampico Theater to deal with Dean Domino. He was not at all difficult, not really. The speakers and your collar are much more of an annoyance here than they were in the previous section. Pick up a key, talk to Dean, go backstage, turn off a few radios, destroy a few speakers, and talk to Dean one last time. After the dialogue, you must kill him, which isn't great because dodging gunfire is practically impossible. To avoid that, I opened fire immediately, killed him, ransacked his corpse, killed more ghost people, and went to find Christine. She has a voice now, good for her. There's more collar beeping and holograms in this section. I found that if you run past them and get out of their line of sight before they turn red, you're pretty much home free. The assassin suit can be useful here as it gives you +10 to sneak, which helps in escaping the wrath of the holograms. The close quarters fight problem with Dean is much more of a problem here. I saved my automatic rifle for this exact circumstance, so killing Christine was about as easy as accidentally backing over your kid in your driveway. The real problem was one of time and an unfortunate series of quick saves. You must escape the executive suites before your collar explodes, all the while avoiding holograms. I didn't remember the exact way I came in. I got lost a few times. At one point, I even had my hand on the elevator door when my collar went off. I eventually made my escape, killed even more ghost people, and it was finally time for the heist of the century. I had all 3 music varieties, so I went back to Vera Key's suite, put on her dress, don't you fucking judge me, opened the door that only opens if you play her voice, and arrived at the vault. To discover the secrets of the Sierra Madre vault, I had to barely, and I mean just barely, disable the holograms before they cooked me alive, enter the vault, and speak to Elijah one final time. There were a few things I could do. I could stay in the vault forever, a good idea if the idea of suffocating or starving to death turns you on. I could attempt to kill Elijah in combat. Maybe I could kill him with the mines and the weapons I've got, but there's no way I'd be able to deal with him and the multiple laser turrets at the same time. No, there was only one way I was getting out of the Sierra Madre alive. I convinced Elijah to abandon technology and come to the vault so we could speak face to face. While he was fulfilling his dream of discovering the secrets of what lies within the Sierra Madre vault, I was hightailing it back through the corridors and past the holograms until I got to the vault entrance. By the time I got there, Elijah had realized that I'd trapped him inside. He finally got what he wanted all along. The contents of the vault were his and his alone. I escaped the Sierra Madre vault, went back to the fountain to get a screenshot to commemorate this experience, left Sierra Madre forever, and beat Fallout New Vegas' Dead Money DLC without taking any damage. Remember when I said all the vault contents belonged to Elijah? Yeah, that was a lie, because before I made my escape, I stole one of the gold bars. Take that, you stupid old bitch. Without any DLC installed, you can get a few firearms at the beginning of Fallout New Vegas. Most of them are pretty par for the course as far as beginning game weapons go, but there's a weapon that has some of the worst stats of any firearm in the game. Can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only a silenced .22 pistol? The point of this run is to beat Fallout New Vegas by only damaging friends and foes with the silenced .22 pistol. Because you can avoid quite a bit of conflict by dumping points into speech, I'm not going to bother with that skill. I put 10 special points into intelligence, agility, and luck. Put 7 points into perception, stole a lot of stuff from Doc Mitchell, did a quick interview, chose guns, medicine, and sneak as my tag skills, looked at a few ink blots, picked trigger discipline and wild wasteland as my traits, and left Mitchie's house to explore the Mojave wasteland. Unlike something like a rolling pin, the .22 pistol is readily available from Goodsprings General Store. Chet had the pistol itself, 100 standard rounds, and 11 hollow points, more than enough to last until I find a new vendor. I sold what I could except for the 10mm pistol and caravan shotgun that come from the DLC, because I felt like selling those would give me too many caps early on, so I dropped them on the ground, picked up my weapon, got the varmint rifle from Sunny Smiles to sell later, and let my adventure begin. Back in the Prospector Saloon, I killed Trudy and Joe Cobb, went outside to kill Easy Pete and a settler who happened to be passing by. I killed another settler who was tending to his crops, killed Ringo inside a gas station, returned to Doc Mitchell's house to kill him and continue ransacking his house. I killed a few cows, killed Cheyenne and Sunny Smiles inside the Prospector Saloon, sold to Chet what I'd picked up from the corpses, left Chet alive and alone in Goodsprings, and was off to Prim. Before I'd even left Goodsprings, I proved myself to be quite capable with the .22 pistol by killing a puppy on a far-off mountain. On the way to Prim, I killed 2 powder gangers behind Gene skydiving, killed 2 more of them, and left them to rot in each other's arms, got a sneak peek at Warner Brothers' upcoming movie Godzilla vs. Kong, and was near Prim. I decided not too long ago that I'd be siding with the NCR, but they'll forgive all crimes you've committed against them before dealing with Benny and the Tops. So I killed the trooper so I'd be able to disguise myself as an NCR soldier later on. Then I killed another because I couldn't have low-quality armor. I'm a princess, after all. I defiled the dead bodies in the sheriff's house to steal his cowboy repeater and entered the Vicky and Vance casino. Johnson Nash had some 22 long rifle ammo, but not nearly as much as I was hoping he'd have. The citizens of Prim are lucky that I'm the kind of person who does the right thing without needing a reward. I walked through the doors of the Bison Steve Hotel and let my slaughter begin. Slowly but surely, the convicts inside died to my shitty little pea shooter. Now's a good time to mention that the 22 pistol isn't entirely useless if you can't get a sneak bonus. The 22 pistol does 9 damage per shot, but it has a higher chance to land critical shots than most other firearms. Critical shots do 3 times damage. A successful sneak attack guarantees a critical hit, while also doing 2 times damage, so you're effectively dealing 6 times damage with a successful sneak attack. The gun's skill also has a role to play. At 100, the gun skill doubles the amount of damage you do with guns. At 0, the gun skill gives no quote-unquote bonus to damage. Suffice it to say, the 22 pistol can be a solid weapon, provided you build your character around the guns and sneak skills. You might even be wondering why I'm doing this playthrough if the gun isn't complete shit. The simple answer is that I'm doing this playthrough because quite a few people suggested it. Back in the game, I'd finally killed all the convicts and could rescue Deputy Beagle. Remember when I said I'm the kind of person who does the right thing? That was a lie. I executed Beagle, chopped up his body as a message to anyone who enters the hotel, stole his diary, left the convict leader straddling a Brahmin spit roast, and returned to the Vicky and Vance casino to kill Johnson Nash, his wife, and their friends. In my new world, not having enough ammo for sale is a crime punishable by death. I left Prim in shambles and continued my mission of serving up justice to all wrongdoers of the Mojave Wasteland. I started with Mitten because the Legion are there, and because passing through Mitten before reaching Mojave Outpost is an easy way to complete a side quest. I parkoured my way up onto a roof, channeled my inner Malvo, and one by one, all the Legion soldiers and their stupid dogs fell before me. Except for Vulpes, because he's a pussy, I had to approach the building before I could stealthily end him. I was going to let Oliver Swanwick live, but that bitch gave me the finger, so I killed him, cut off his head, arms, and legs, and left his body on display on the road into Mitten. After getting ambushed by the Jackals gang leader, I avoided the other Jackals by passing through a desert on my way to Mojave Outpost. A traveling merchant surprised me and had some 22 ammo. I arrived at Mojave Outpost, completed the Keep Your Eyes on the Prize quest, sold some stuff to Lacey, and killed Cass. Don't worry, I didn't do anything weird with her body. I left her strewn over the bar, just as she would have wanted. My next stop was Novak to hopefully get more ammo before heading to Boulder City. I guess I somehow upset a herd of bighorners by killing some of their kids in the herd, because they fucked me all the way down the mountain. Luckily, inconveniently placed rocks are the natural enemy of bighorners, so I used that rock as my get-out-of-jail-free card, escaped the herd, killed one more bighorner that was alone as a last fuck you to the herd, passed through Wolfhorn Ranch, exploded a bird, and met up with a few more merchants. None of them had anything interesting on them. Unfortunately for them, there's still some justice to be served. I've been watching Game of Thrones, and in that show, there's a saying that's something along the lines of, all merchants must die. I've made it my personal mission to kill all traveling merchants I see. The sad part is their pack Brahmin will stop and stay by their owner's side, forever waiting for their companion to wake up so they can travel onwards. A group of legionaries got into a scuffle with the other merchants before I could kill them. Don't worry, they'll pay for that later. I put all their bodies into a heap on the road, stripped them naked, showed that we're all the same when we're dead, and started performing some sacred Michigan rituals. A few NCR soldiers passed by mid-ritual. I'd have killed them too, but one of the Brahmin was watching, and I didn't want to traumatize the poor beast. After passing through a Viper encampment, I arrived in Novak, rented a room, and spoke to Cliff Briscoe. He didn't have any 22 ammo, because why would he? I went up to meet Manny, but he'd already been eaten by the dinosaur. I absolutely did not kill him and position his body to make it look like a rogue dinosaur attack. I'm not that clever. I killed Dr. Ada Strauss and the 2 mercenaries accompanying her, went back to Goodsprings to buy more ammo from Chet, and started making my way towards Boulder City. I stopped by Gibson's scrapyard, hoping to buy some ammo, but was attacked by her stupid fucking dogs for some reason. I love dogs, but they had to die. Also, I just want to point out that Colmillo's eyes were out of his head, and it really freaked me out. As I continued towards Boulder City, Lieutenant Haggerty saw through my disguise and attacked me on sight. So I killed her, and now I'm Lieutenant Haggerty. I killed Ignacio Rivas and positioned his body in a way that anyone who came in would think his death was an accident. like he had a dream so scary his head exploded. Back on the road, I killed the lonesome drifter and stole his guitar. Then killed another merchant and saw another sad Brahmin. After arriving in Boulder City, I killed Private Kowalski and splattered his brains all over the memorial he was crying about. Spoke to Lieutenant Monroe and agreed to enter the city and deal with the Great Khans. But the best offense is a good defense, which is why I killed all the NCR troopers inside. Before dealing with the Great Khans, I killed Lieutenant Monroe. The Great Khans were surprised that I sided with them, but little did they know that I have a vendetta against anyone who isn't me, so I killed them all as well. I also killed the NCR hostages inside. This is all just hearsay though. Everyone inside Boulder City is dead. Nobody really knows what happened there. Just outside of Boulder City, I ran into Victor. Because I was low on ammo, I figured I'd just follow him to the strip. He saved me once, he'd do it again. And then Victor died. I tried to use his body as a shield against the mutated camp children inhabiting the lake shore. But it didn't work all that well. They've retained their crybaby instincts to a surprising degree, because if they can't hit you, they'll just scream as loud as they can. Inching closer to the strip, I ran into a merchant that had more calves than you'd expect. They died all the same, but if nothing else, they had my respect and their Brahmin had my sympathies. At long last, I finally arrived at the Gunrunners. The robot vendor had nearly 200 rounds of .22 ammo, which is quite a bit more than the 12 rounds I had left. Because I'd only be spending my caps on .22 ammo and stim packs, I went ahead and bought a set of reinforced combat armor. Then this freak started sprinting towards me out of nowhere like he was gonna rob me, so of course I defended myself. I stopped by Mick and Ralph's and bought another 170 rounds of .22 ammo. Spent far too long listening to Rotface, killed him, tried to kill a few kids, and entered the king's clubhouse. Somewhere in the Bible, Jesus said that thinking yourself to be cool when you're not cool is a sin. And I'm on a mission from God to save the Mojave, which is why I went room to room, killing every last person in the king's building. You might think that makes me a terrorist, but I think you should mind your own damn business. I tried to do the same thing at the Silver Rush, but the Van Buren boys were substantially harder to kill thanks to their combat armor. Despite their advanced weaponry, they are low IQ individuals. They don't color crooked Gloria for nothing. Their heads were not protected, which made critical hits easy to land. And I finally arrived on the strip. If you think I'm gonna take the diplomatic approach to dealing with Benny, you haven't been paying attention. Things are about to get a little murdery. I took my sweet time and killed every person in the Tops Casino, met Yes Man, and confronted Benny. His body dropped like a sack of ground beef. With the platinum chip in hand, I knew that I'd have to decide how to handle a few smaller factions in the Mojave. And what better group to start with than the White Glove Society? I'm not gonna waste too much time on those cannibal fucks. I'll just say that I killed well over 100 people while I was in there. After all that murder, my poor pistol was uncomfortably close to passing out from exhaustion. I kept it alive by buying more bullets from Robo Vendor to force through its body. I tried buying even more from Mick and Ralph, but they don't like me anymore. I paid a visit to the Atomic Wrangler to buy my way back into the people's hearts, which ended up being a waste of time since neither Mick nor Ralph had any ammo for sale. Crimes against humanity must be punished, so I wasted them both before returning to the strip to wipe out everyone at Gomorrah. I've spent enough time detailing my murder sprees, so just know that all living creatures inside that casino are now deceased. Both the NCR and Legion have already forgiven my crimes, but I've decided to side with Mr. House. To that end, I went into the NCR embassy, killed Ambassador Crocker, hid his body on top of a cabinet, and left. I also killed a few of the troopers at the end of the strip, which upset both the other soldiers and the Securitrons. Luckily for me, I had NCR armor, which let me get inside the monorail station, ambush a few soldiers by waiting at the top of the stairs, ride the monorail to Camp McCarran, kill General James Sue, Captain James Hornsby, Lieutenant Kerry Boyd, Captain Ronald Curtis, and Major Daughtry. With a solid chunk of the NCR's Mojave leadership down for the count, I could head to the fort to do the same thing to the Legion. Caesar died after 2 shots, but I'd been stripped of all healing items at the entrance of Fortification Hill, which made escaping a little more difficult than I thought it would be. After I'd finally gotten back to Cottonwood Cove, I took sanctuary in the Colorado River, went back to the strip, and finally met Mr. House. Robbie did his usual song and dance and sent me back to the hellhole that is the fort. I had other things to do though, so I picked up Veronica and made my way to the hidden bunker. The NCR hates me, which is why the miners at Sloan attacked me. And Veronica, that vile cunt, she went straight for Snuffles. Any possibility of a diplomatic solution to the Brotherhood problem went out the window. I got Veronica to let me into the bunker. I executed Elder McNamara, filled Head Paladin Harden's chest with lead, put a bullet in Head Pussy Taggart's stupid head, generated the self-destruct code, killed Veronica, and left everyone alive so they'd die when the bunker destroyed itself. I went back down to look at all the good work I've done, and I thought to myself, you did good, Bob, you did good. I named myself Silent Bob. I don't think I've mentioned that yet. Anyway, I ventured back to the fort. Being an uninvited guest allowed me to keep all my stim packs. Here's a fun fact, the Legion can follow you down into the Securitron vault, and they certainly make this more challenging than it needed to be. I had hoped that the robots would attack them inside, but they didn't. At one point, I had to spam my stim pack key just to keep myself alive as I shoved my way through all the bodies shooting at me. My next task was to deal with the boomers. On my way there, I stopped by Crimson Caravan Company, and may have gotten a little carried away with myself. Maybe, it's hard to say. In Nellis, I continued the tradition of killing their leaders before deciding to take care of the great cons of Red Rock early. In my travels to Red Rock Canyon, I encountered 2 wannabe criminals. They were rude to me, so I left their dead bodies to rot in each other's arms. After I blew the heads off their dead bodies, of course. I got revenge on those big horners from earlier by slaughtering their cousins just outside of Red Rock Canyon. Not having time for diplomacy, and because I'm a murderous psychopath, I opted for the kill everyone option when deciding the fate of the great cons at Red Rock Canyon. Look at it this way, their years of suffering are over because there's nobody left alive to suffer anymore. After I did the thing at El Dorado substation, the second battle of Hoover Dam arrived. I'm gonna jump ahead quite a bit because I ended up getting myself in quite a bit of a pickle. I used an assortment of drugs and sneak attacks to rather quickly kill the legate. But there were also some Legion soldiers who must die before you can confront General Oliver. Turns out I didn't really plan ahead all that well. Normal 22 rounds are great, hollow points are not. In fact, they suck. I had 40 hollow points left to kill about 6 legionaries. To put into perspective how bad hollow points are, throwing a damp sponge at them would do more damage. Eventually I figured out that in my current situation, I would not be able to beat the game. So I pussied out, reloaded a prior save to before the battle began, bought all the ammo I could, and let the second battle begin for the second time. This time, even with literally hundreds of rounds of ammunition, I ignored the soldiers on the path to the Hoover Dam offices, quickly disposed of those in my way inside the offices, flipped another switch, let the Securitrons do the heavy lifting on my way to the Legate's camp, and killed most of the Legate soldiers before confronting the Legate. And by confronting, I mean I drugged myself out of my mind and unloaded on him with sneak attacks like the sneaky little gopher god of death I am. After the Legate's death, I cleaned up a few other attackers, used quite literally every drug I had left, spoke to General Oliver, killed him, quickly swapped to a shotgun to blow the head off his dead body, talked to Mr. House, and beat Fallout New Vegas with only a silenced .22 pistol.